And welcome back to the Successful Author Series. Today I have an amazing guest. He's a speaker, I'm a speaker. We met in a speaker community. Immediately, where we're like, yes, we need to do a collaboration. We need to talk. We need to hang out because we just have so much synergy. We love some of the same mentors. We read some of the same books and we have some of the same values and beliefs. So I always love to hang out with people who are positive, who are moving and shaking and making things happen. And obviously, I love people who have books. He's got multiple books. He's been on many different stages. He is right across the border. He is one of our amazing neighbors in Canada. And so, without further ado, bring it to the stage, Patrick Richard Garcia. Take us away. Tell us who you are and what you do.
Thank you for the great introduction. Appreciate that. So I am I'm sure for most of you that are writers, especially writers, I'm a international best-selling author, which is pretty cool. I would never thought I would have reached that far, which I'll mention more as I share my story. With being an author, I'm a speaker, and I'm also an entrepreneur, and I also run my own educational and consulting business called House of Revival. And a big part of that is helping entrepreneurs and business owners to really get their life taken care of. So when you're building up your could be your money, it could be health. Once you start building that, then your business will accelerate. Because without working those two together, then it's not gonna work. So that's a bit just what I do, and yeah, that's a bit about me.
Yay. I want to dig deep. I want to know about your background. I'm kind of nosy. And I really love to just think about where people have been. Because, of course, everybody's proud of you for where you are, right? Everybody loves that you're an author, and that's amazing. But I really like to share with people a little tiny bit of the journey and where you've been because we know that life takes us down many different roads and there's a lot of things that we don't plan for and we can't prepare for. And so I'm speaking to the person right now who's watching this and is like, you know what? That's nice for you, LT. You have books. Great job, Patrick. You have books. But they might be in a situation that's challenging right now. And so I really want to know, what has your upbringing, your background been like? Like, what have you been through that you would say was a huge challenge or roadblock on your way to success?
I would say a big part of accomplishing this much success is the number one thing I've acknowledged is that I can do what I like to do. And a big part of it is when I fully acknowledged my story when I was a young kid. At age 5, I was diagnosed with learning disability, which most of you don't know. It's essentially a individual that has more than one problem of learning certain subjects and life skills. And a lot of times we may understand what they are, and it can be quite difficult to comprehend with how we can move day to day life. And it's more importantly, I was struggling to adapt a lot as I got diagnosed and meet with different doctors, and I had to transfer 3 times in my young life. It's crazy. Every 3 years, I had to move 3 different schools, and as a young kid, I've learned to adapt very quickly. And along with that, as a young kid, adapting and my learning curve still not catching up with the other kids. I started to learn a lot of the trauma and stress I had as a kid. I didn't know how to comprehend with that. I remember with all that happening, I was just taken as a sponge and just moved on as day life, and then just go from there as a young kid, just figuring out um, like my next day to go to school, my next day of learning. And I noticed a lot of kids were very fortunate that they were very settled, but that they're very settled and were ready to go move day to day. But for me, I was always figuring out how can I improve every day, how can I get better grades, and of course, obviously, along with that, I had to be a kid as well. I need to be that kid to continue being curious and explore, just being that regular kid, and with all that happened at once. And I know my parents did their best because they were really concerned about my development during that time. And then as my grade year, like well, elementary years have gone by, and then high school, which was the year where I really accelerated everything. Like I finally had the courage to say yes to not going to my home class, which during this last 10 years I had to move back and forth between my home classroom and my special needs classroom, and it was quite a bit to maneuver back and forth, and then adapting, and then people always talk behind you, like, oh, like why is he always going different places and all of that, like what does he do, what is like that, and a lot of times I had to block that background noise, and or even not even that, I didn't even hear anything because I was too tunnel vision to understand at the time what that meant for me. But yeah, it was just an amazing time, where high school I really started to grasp a lot of learning, and I started to excel in grades, and I started to become more confident. And with that growth, I never knew I could have been an athlete. I've done a lot of things, a lot of stuff as well, like volunteering, and I think a big thing was making friends. I think that's a big part of it. Um, a big part of writing the books is that making those close relationships at the time, friendships. I didn't know how to really understand like the main concept of retaining friendships and building that. I was still figuring out how to do that. No one really taught me how to do these things. Um, so long story short, and honestly, I graduated with the degree, which is pretty cool. I have never knew I could have done college as a man. I did it, and
Yeah.
and the main story, because I know it's a bit long, because I've written a whole chapter of my whole story, which I can definitely give the link to look at it. A big part of it is that I really had to take life by the horns, and really understand that no one's going to save you. And I really understood that more further, especially when I got older.
Wow.
And of course, there were times where I wish I had someone to guide me, because I was learning on my own. Like, I was a self learner. I really had to experiment a lot, which was pretty embarrassing. But that's how you learn. I did a lot of trial and error. I had to embarrass myself a lot. I remember even also when I started on stages, especially in my first, second year of college, university years, I really had to just say yes and just do different things that require me to be on the stage, and I had to have a mic on my hand, and it was pretty interesting to really be up there. I think and reflecting now, I was thankful to go through those experiences, because by those experiences, which with a lot of authors, as me and you are authors as well, and those who are watching, a lot of times your stories are important, but also selecting one that's very powerful to really match your expertise, to match what your values are. And I, I remember also like writing my first book, um, where I was a co-author, and I remember looking back, I was really having a hard time coming to terms with my whole entire life up to that point, and I knew that if I don't share it, then who else has impact? I'm like, you know what, forget it. I'll write it, I'll do it, and then we'll see, and then we'll see what happens. And I did. I almost missed deadlines, but it's always a challenge to meet deadlines. More importantly, when everything shut down during a very very difficult time, which most of you, I won't say it. Uh, it's really to understand that when you really know your story's important, you really need to um, share it. If you don't share it, then I don't want to be that. Well, I'm sure me or you don't want to be that person where you die and take it to your grave, and that's very sad. It's very sad to take your stories to the grave, because those are like golden nuggets for the people to have, and technically, yes, it's yours, but then it doesn't mean anything if you're not going to share it. So
Yeah.
that's
How old were you when you first got on stage and spoke in front of a group? How old were you?
I think I was 20, 21, very young.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's young.
yeah,
Wow. To
yeah.
go
It was.
from, wait a minute, to go from elementary school, moving around, then being in special education, then going to college, and all of a sudden you're in your 20s, you're super young, and you get on stage. How did you build up the courage for that? Because if you talk to most 21-year-olds now, they'll be like, I'm not getting on stage. Well, I'll make a TikTok video and go on TikTok or Instagram, but I'm not going on stage with a microphone. Huh? What was that like? How did you feel?
It felt pretty good. If anything, I'm glad that time social media was still on the growth stage. So we have to do the old-fashioned way, just have a camera if you have recorded, or just have a like a little recorder. Like if you have it, then use it. And
Wow.
I remember I learned in the long term that I need to learn how to memorize certain things like notes and summarize in a short amount of time. I started to understand how to summarize. I started how to learn how to engage the audience and all of that. And even though most times I may not understand what I'm saying, or even learn how to capture attention of let's say people that are like in my classroom, or it could be a small group event, or doesn't matter what it is. It's really knowing that you have this amount of time, and you must use it, even though you may use it full time or not. But it's really good to know that whatever they can mention and how you learn how to engage. And then also with me being more on these stages, I really had to take in a lot of feedback, which at the beginning I was not receptive to feedback.
Ooh, yeah.
Just the fact that even though I have self confidence, but I was always doubtful too about me being up there, and thinking about, okay, there were moments where I really thought about like preparing school and doing different things, because when grades don't matter, I didn't know at that time, like your identity and brand is out there, which I learned so much later, that
Yeah.
your brand and identity becomes such a huge important part of who you are. And I thought about looking back, like, yeah, I didn't realize that I was building that foundation to uh, to really show that I'm up there. And I remember when I was catching up with old friends that I met throughout the years, say, "Oh, are you speaking? Are you doing poetry?" Which at that time, a lot of them acknowledged me with these certain things I was doing. And I thought, well, oh wow, I didn't realize that me doing certain things or doing certain actions could have identified what I was doing. So that
Mm,
was pretty cool. I really started to understand how the branding part works, and up
yeah.
to now, I've really acknowledged and learning that the storyline and how you present on stage becomes more of a challenge, because then based on the theme of a certain story, and you really need to pinpoint which small stories can put together to your actual story. And there are moments where I remember in the beginning I was starting to be online, because it was not 2 years ago I started competing again for speaking competitions. And
Ooh.
I recall that I was having a hard time putting the story together because of the time constraint, and I was scared to invest in myself. I was like, oh, it's cost a lot of money, and
Yeah.
that's a big thing. That's another big thing. If money becomes an issue, it's gonna bug you, because then that's your next step to grow faster. Really put money on the line. If you don't, then you're just waiting on the sideline to start. So I remember that too. When there's answer in front of me and you don't do it, then it's kind of obvious to uh,
Yeah.
move,
What was
move
the tell us about the programs that you've invested in. You don't have to name the programs, but what when did you make that first big investment in yourself that was really scary?
I believe it was 20. if you want like full accumulation, because I was constantly going through programs, I've gotten used to uh, investing in me. So it wasn't new, but I think the biggest one was 2021, where I really had to go. Well, if you go American, I think 10K American. So for me, it's bigger currency, and I knew with the big investment, I really need to understand what commitment I'm in part of,
Yeah.
and it's scary, really scary, to really know that you're putting so much online, and you're not used to it, and of course, along with that investment, you really need to look at your operating system, which even me too. I'm still working on my operating system where I'm really every day it's a defragmentation of like making my system better because there's no way that you're perfect in less than
Mhm.
1 3 5 years. You always constantly reprogram yourself. And um oh, sorry, I got tracked there. So
That's
course and
what I was
programs,
going to ask. Yeah.
I have done different stages. I have done learning how to create a stage, even
Mhm.
building one and finding them, and also learning pretty much like leadership, sales, marketing, operations, pretty much learning like business fundamentals as well, learning that, understanding that, and even also I learned also a stage as well is you have to boost your PR, which I've learned to really put my bigger investment in people that are out there. And I made sure every conference I attend to, I minimally had to have a VIP meet and greet. There's absolutely no way that I'm not gonna do that. Be because based on the alignment of the person you want to meet, even though it's like 2 minutes and 1 minute,
Yep.
it's just the fact that you're aligned with this person, and you'll never know. They could have in your podcast, or even invite them to your own stage one day. And I have
Mhm.
right now, I think I think 6% of people that have polls with, and I'm still growing that. And I knew with growing that number, um, that creates the credibility, and that creates opportunity to in the future you use a reference, say, oh yeah, we have met at your own event this amount of time, and then it will bring a memory. But because you never know, that person may remember, oh yeah, I remember I met you for a brief time, and that will help with connecting. That'll help with seeing whether they're a good fit or not to your event, or even to your own forward or like a chapter. You may never know. So that's it's really to understand that you gotta look beyond like general mission, looking beyond. I mean, yeah, like being there, showing up is good, but then you gotta have intention, which I also learned as well. Even the operators are like, okay, like what's my intention to build my authorship? So I always start with like fundamental, like networking, finding the right people, finding the right network,
Yeah,
and
that I was going to ask you that part next. So you've done a couple of anthologies. How did you decide who to collaborate with when it came to writing your book, your chapter?
you know what's cool? It was pretty cool. I've gotten invited to them. I didn't say nothing. I
Oh,
said,
you
okay.
got invited?
I got invited to them. I was like, okay,
Oh,
pretty cool. So
wow.
all three of the books, two of them are personal development and one's a business and marketing book. I was approached by them. I didn't do any leads. They found me. I was like, what? Okay.
Wow.
I was thinking, how did I grab these people and they buy me? Obviously, it's not free. Don't forget, it's not free. You
Right.
have
It's an investment to be a part of an anthology. For those of y'all that are watching out here, it's called pay to play. Like you've got to get into the room with the right people who
hmm
connect you
hmm
and open doors. But yeah, it's not free and you got to pay to play. But that is an honor though that they found you. Do you think it was
hmm
because you were already a speaker before you became an author?
I would say that's a big important part, being a speaker and really being out in the community. I believe also with, I remember I was so active in social media. I was posting every day, doing stories and tagging people. A big part of it was finding what works in terms of results and social media. Obviously, when you fly out the boat and don't really stay updated to the current trends, I understand that I need to continue learning marketing trends because
Okay.
now I'm not relevant. Back then I was, because that's how they found me. It's like, oh wow. They found me because I was consistently posting and stories and all that. Obviously now it's changed, so I realize that now, like the algorithm always changes, but that's a whole different kind of mindset and different talk. But yeah, it's really knowing that you gotta be out there. Even the stage, it can be just posting a story, posting a post. Those are like mini version of anything, but obviously the bigger one is going live. I remember I from the first year and a half, I was going live almost every week, and I was
Hey.
always out there. I don't know what I was doing. I was like, oh hey, I'll just do a theme, and then that's it. I just did it. Most times it's just me, and then I had times where
Yes.
I had other people as well and be involved in the live with me. And I didn't care. I made sure I made it short as possible, like 15, 30 minutes long.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be like a podcast long. We're not like Joe Rogans and all that. But we're here to still give value. I think that's a big important part when you're out there, is making sure that you're giving value. And a lot of times we all have to think about, is it for me? Well, if you think it that way, if you think selfishly, then if you think selfishly, it's not going to work.
Yep.
And, and I know it's very like micro level, but the way you approach lives and all that, and I'm sure things like a lot of technology captures what we say. Obviously, what we say doesn't promote value, then it's like, oh wow, we're not relevant. So it's really learning the game of, I wouldn't say being positive, but I think giving value and giving the right content. Because if we're out there just giving the wrong content or the right kind, then you're being pushed towards a different audience, and you don't want that, and you will have a struggle of really recycling and really looking at all your data and statistics about what content you're doing and how long it is and all of that. So that's a whole different game. But yeah, I've really acknowledged the fact that we're all still learning and growing, and a big part of choosing a story and being a leader of yourself, and that's where I really needed to learn, is that really grasping the knowledge of leadership. And leadership is a very used word a lot when we're younger. It's
Mhm.
we always thought it's a person in front of the line, but sometimes it could be the person in the background, or it could be in the middle. There's no I would say like length or structure. If anything, it's more of how someone could take ownership. And I read different books as well. Like a lot of the leadership is ownership of your problems, and you got to own it.
Yep.
And that's the beginning of leadership. If you don't own your problems, then who can take you seriously? No one will take you really seriously. And until you fix that, then it'll be a huge mountain to climb to really get clients, get speakers, get even your book out.
Yeah.
Just not knowing, not honing and learning your problems and taking care of them. People can sense that. Me, you can sense that we all have problems, but we can sense that if you're not serious, then I can't work with you. That's how it works.
Yeah. Let's shift gears and talk about
Mhm.
business. Like, how young were you when you started your first business, and how did you decide what business to get into? Because so many people out here now on these internet streets are trying to figure out their purpose, they're doing research, trying to figure out like what business would be wonderful. And there's a lot of gurus teaching different business strategies, different business ideas, concepts. What has your life been like in terms of business?
You know what's crazy? I've been always finding the right mentor and the right plan. And 3 years later, I I found the right communities and the right people. And I noticed that I really adored the guru mentors that I had. They were great. I would never doubt it at all. However, they they couldn't resolve the problems that I had. How can you be a solopreneur doing everything at once? And
Oh,
they
yeah.
so it's really knowing that, okay, how can you learn everything and then outsource everything? Okay, but then breaking it down to like micro steps of how to get to that level. And a lot of never taught that. And I wouldn't say it's bad. but just the way they're marking it is more those towards who are very at least fundamentally seasoned in the game. For me, I
Yeah.
was so fresh in the game, and yes, like I had to research and look at, okay, like what does this mean? How I do this? And I noticed every year I started to understand that I really need to find someone that has been there from zero to 10 or 100 million, or one of those, but they've learned from other people that have been there, and they started to create their own systems, and actually break it down for you. Like, let's say example, if you're broke, had no money, or you have a structured fundamental business making a certain amount of money, or scaling. So there's like three levels of where you're starting. So that was pretty cool, like really knowing that there are people out there who have started and have three different ways of where you are in your life and business, and then choose that, and then you learn and create it, and if you need help, then you shell out one-on-one money, which is more. But then you really want to learn everything on yourself, and then if you really need that extra help, then go for it, because that's a decent piece, and they'll be very happy to help you with everything you need to do. So with business, I remember I actually enjoyed it. I remember at a very young age, I've always read the newspaper, and I don't know what kids reading papers these days. I was the one getting like the paper in the subway, reading every day. I really love reading it, and I remember a lot of the business stuff that happened. Like example, like acquisitions and buyouts. I was so interested in those things. Like, oh wow,
Mhm.
that's a lot of money. How do you get that? Let's get kind of wow. Those are big zeros. And then I was reading it like wow, like I didn't understand it, but like the concept of buying out and acquiring things and laying off. It's like whoa, this is interesting. And then that time it didn't really occur to me because I'm sure a lot of cultures don't promote business because they don't want to put you into like actual like careers that are already
Yeah.
making money after graduation, and then based on like which ones you're doing, then you're guaranteed a job. That's a whole different story. I'm not going there
You
for
said
today.
today, you said you have an education company today, right?
Yeah, it's still building an education company. Yeah,
Okay. How did you decide to create that?
it was really based on the fact that there were a lot of mis misconcept and communication about what stuff are we learning. I'm sure me and you both know that there's a lot of misinformation, and we all have gone through that rabbit hole of find out what's real and not real, and find out what is the most important skills and concepts to really learn about life, business, growth, even pretty much learning how to build a great human life overall. And a lot of times I've noticed that the quantity and quantifiable amount of information out there, it's either misleading, or it could be leading toward a whole new direction, and they may try to upsell a lot of things, but they don't have a lot of fundamental concepts and skills that are so important for us to even navigate daily life, and it's always changing. So I knew that I want to create something where even kids, adults, or like no matter how old they are, a a lot of them are related to business, but it can be related to life as well. So I knew that I want to create something where, like, no matter what stage you are, you're always gonna start at the beginning, and really see what you're missing, what you're building on, and then from there, based on your goals and ambitions, then I can give you like a certain structure, like a certain roadmap towards where you want to go, like either to a whole new career or to a highest position, to like a corporate position, even your business, or even self-employment, or like any kind of goal you want to do. There'll be a roadmap for you to really go where you want to go, and then from there we can create the map together, and then start building together based on where you want to go from there.
That's awesome. So it sounds like you help people at the ground for like at ground zero, right? When they're just beginning their business journey. Is that who you help beginning entrepreneurs?
Yeah, a lot of times it'd be mostly beginning, but I'm also helpful towards anyone in any level, based on where they are. Even though let's say you're making this amount of money, but then your life is so bad, it's not to where we want to go. So that we can look at a manageable level, that we can look at what even though you're making that, could you make more and reduce expenses, or even figuring out how your habits are, and really going through that intense level of in depth of your virtues, your values, your habits and routines. Going through that level can really help me, and then you really understand, like, working together or not. I'm just really giving that sense of perspective that if you don't have help, then here it is. Let's say, example, if you have my help, here's amount of time and money you get back. If you don't, then it's up to you. You just keep recurring your same things, and then
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I've got one last question for you because we're already way over time, but this is
Mhm.
what I want to know. I know a lot of people in my audience are going to want to know this. So, if you were to write another book today and it were to be a solo project,
Mhm.
what would you write a book about today?
It's pretty cool. I've always thought about this thing for a while. It would be really creating your fundamental purpose, and with the fundamental purpose, then that will create the opportunity to see that people can't judge based on where you are in life, because at the end we're all starting from zero. So with that concept of starting from zero, uh, based on how we write the book, then it'll give people understanding that it doesn't matter where you are. We're always starting somewhere new, because let's face it, life, business, and money always changes. There's no way it's always linear. Everything changes every day, every year, every month. Anything new happens, and we need to adapt to it. So I've noticed that. So by starting from zero, really just thinking like, okay, I need to adapt and learn new. When you start from zero, then you can use your old teachings from, let's say, yesterday or the past, to learn what's new today. Because whatever was learned yesterday will not work today. So that's my concept of the book, is that book we wrote in last 6 months ago will be totally different, because based on where we are, there's always authors growing. So I may likely have like the same authors back, just as showing that there's growth, and then some may not make it, because I want to create a new structure where, let's say if the authors are growing, I'll keep them back. If not, then you're just a one time deal, and then that's it for you. So it's really knowing that there's an ongoing process of like a series there, and then that we're gonna aggressive. Like, life is not linear. It's always constantly moving
Yeah.
uh all around. So it's pretty cool. I want to try this concept. I think no one's done it yet, but I want to give it a shot, and see where it takes me with this series.
Yeah. So, do you see yourself going live again to talk about your new book?
Yeah, I am definitely in talks with one of the publishers. Me and haven't connected yet. To do a series together. So I'm gonna let them know that, hey, I'm ready to start my own project. I know I have a lot of co-authoring projects going, but my own book, I gotta start that now. There's
Yes.
there's there,
Yes. Got to do
there's
it.
no way that I'm waiting for it. So that'll be amazing for me to restart.
Yeah. And how can people get a hold of you? On what platforms are you on for social media?
So I'm pretty much everywhere. I have TikTok, but I'm learning that right now, so I'm there more often. The most frequently I'm there is IG, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Those are my main three um, media links. I'm always active.
Perfect. All right. Okay, well, that's it for today. Patrick and I are gonna talk a little bit more in back behind the scenes. But thank you guys for coming in and listening to this conversation. Again, this is a part of my summer series called Interviews with Successful Authors, where we are going to continue to showcase authors who are out in the community making a difference, out running businesses, right? Teaching in the classroom. We've got some authors in my community that are teachers, entrepreneurs, coaches, bloggers, writers. We have a variety of people that are here together for the purpose of inspiration and motivation. Because if I can do this and if Patrick can do this, then you absolutely can do this. You just need to put in the work. And like he said, you need to invest in yourself at a high level. Make sure that you connect with the right people who can give you guidance and direction, and put in the work and continue to believe in yourself, and you can make things happen. Patrick, is there a quote that you want to leave everybody with? Do you have a favorite quote?
I don't have a favorite quote. However, I believe a great saying for me to share is that when you don't ask, you won't know where you're going. So if you don't ask, then they won't know what direction you're going. I think it's pretty straightforward because a lot of us never ask questions, and it could be me or you, it could be anyone. Um, there's a lot of shame and guilt. I know that it's not a quote I'm saying, but just a simple ask, because there's nothing wrong with asking a question, and it may never know that question could really accelerate your growth. I'm telling
Yeah.
you, just asking that one question, breakthrough. That's it.
Yes. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you. I appreciate you sharing your story. I know you're going to be back on this series. This is just the first of many collaborations. So thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and stay tuned for the next episode of the Successful Author series. See you soon.
Thanks for having me, y'all.